The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station where 17 different species came to talk instead of fight. For 300 years they had kept peace across thousands of worlds. Today, they gathered for another debate that would lead nowhere. Ambassador Velix of the Velen people stood before the council, his blue skin pale with fear. His hand shook as he held up a data pad showing images of burning cities. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "My people are dying. The Kratorians have invaded our homeworld. They bomb our cities every day. Our children hide in caves. We need help. We need the council to act." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed sad. Others looked away. High Chancellor Dravik, a tall creature with scales and 4 arms, spoke in a tired voice. "We understand your pain, Ambassador Velix, but the Kratorians are a council member. We cannot simply attack another member species. We must follow protocol. We must have investigations. We must have committees. These things take time." "Time?" Velix's voice rose. "My people don't have time. 50,000 died last week alone. We will send observers," Dravik said. "That is all we can do for now." Velix looked around the chamber at all the different aliens. None would meet his eyes. He left the chamber with his head down, knowing his people would keep dying while the council talked and did nothing. Far away, beyond the edge of known space, a ship moved through the darkness. It was small compared to the massive vessels the galaxy knew. The name painted on its side said Indomitable, in letters most aliens had never seen. On the bridge, Commander Jehoon sat in his chair, watching the stars. He was young for a commander, only 35 years old with sharp eyes and short black hair. He wore a dark blue uniform with no decorations except for one patch on his shoulder. The patch showed a blue and green planet. Earth. "Commander," said Pilot Minho from his station. "We're picking up another transmission. Same source as before. Someone is calling for help." Jehoon leaned forward. "Let me hear it." A voice filled the bridge. It was broken, full of static, but the desperation was clear. The voice spoke in a language the ship's computer had learned to translate. "This is Hayon of Vela Prime. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The Kratorians are killing us. The council does nothing. We are scientists, farmers, teachers. We have no weapons. We are dying. Please, someone, anyone." The message repeated over and over. Jehoon listened to it 3 times, his jaw tight. "How far?" he asked. 2 days at full speed," Minho said. "But Commander, we're not supposed to make contact yet." Earth Command said we're just observing, learning, not interfering. Jehoon stood up and walked to the main view screen. He stared at the stars for a long moment. Behind him, his crew of 40 men and women waited. They all knew what the rules said. They also knew what their commander was thinking. "Nari," Jehoon said to his medical officer, "if someone was dying in front of you and you had medicine, what would you do?" Nari, a young woman with kind eyes and quick hands, didn't hesitate. "I would help them, sir. Even if someone told you not to?" "Yes, sir," Jehoon nodded slowly. He thought about Earth, about humanity's long and bloody history. They had almost destroyed themselves with wars and hate. They had nearly burned their whole world. But they had learned. They had changed. They had united, and they had spent 70 years watching the galaxy through stolen alien technology, seeing the council's failures, seeing good people die while others debated. "Minho," Jehoon said. "Set course for Vela Prime, maximum speed." "Sir?" Minho's voice was uncertain. "You heard me. We're going to help them." The crew exchanged looks. Engineer Dongyun, a thin man with clever hands and grease-stained uniform, grinned. "About time we did something more than just watch." The Indomitable turned and accelerated, jumping into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, their long-range sensors picked up something else. A massive fleet was also heading toward Vela Prime. 300 Kratorian warships coming to finish what they started. On Vela Prime, Hayun sat in an underground shelter with 50 other survivors. She was a scientist who had studied stars and dreamed of peaceful contact with other species. Now she spent her days sending messages no one answered and watching her world die. She was young, barely 28, with violet eyes and white hair that was now dirty from ash and smoke. Her hands, once steady enough to handle delicate instruments, now trembled from fear and exhaustion. "Any response?" asked an elderly Velen beside her. Hayun shook her head. "Nothing. The council sent observers. They watch us die and take notes." Her voice was bitter. "And my other messages, the ones to unknown space, they go nowhere. There's no one out there who cares." Above ground, explosions shook the city. Dust fell from the shelter ceiling. Children cried. Adults held them close and whispered lies about how everything would be okay. Heon started the transmission again, knowing it was useless, but unable to stop. It was all she could do. Call into the void and hope. In orbit around a dead moon, Overlord Krath of the Kratorian Empire watched reports from Vela Prime on his command screen. He was massive, even for his species, with red armor fused to his body and scars covering his face. He had conquered 12 worlds and never lost a battle. The Velans have requested council help, his second-in-command reported. Krath laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Of course they have. And the council will debate and investigate and do nothing, as always. By the time they decide to act, there will be no Velans left to save. Why do we want their world so badly, Overlord? It has no special resources. Krath smiled, showing metal teeth. Resources? I care nothing for resources. But deep below their cities are ruins, ancient ruins that show the location of other worlds, including one world that appears in old legends. They call it Terra, the myth world, the death world, home to the humans that supposedly don't exist. You believe the myths? I believe in winning. If humans are real and as dangerous as the stories say, I want to find them before they find us. And if they're not real, the ruins will lead me to other conquests. Either way, the Velans must die. The fleet prepared to move. 300 ships against a defenseless world. It would be over in days, but in the space between stars, the Indomitable raced toward Vela Prime. On its bridge, Commander Jihoon studied tactical displays showing the Kratorian fleet's position. They outnumber us 300 to 1, Minho said quietly. Jihoon smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a species that had clawed its way to the top of a death world by being meaner, tougher, and more stubborn than anything else. Good, Jihoon said. Fair fights are boring. Let's go introduce ourselves to the galaxy. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vela system. Its weapons powered up. Its crew went to battle stations, and the galaxy's comfortable order was about to shatter. The legends were real. The humans had arrived. The Kratorian patrol ships detected the Indomitable immediately. Their commander, a warrior named Vex, looked at his screen with confusion. What is that? He asked. The design doesn't match any known species. It's small, his weapons officer said. Maybe a cargo ship that wandered into the Warzone by mistake. Vex grinned. Hail them. Tell them to surrender or die. The communication went out, but the small human ship didn't slow down. It didn't turn away. Instead, it came straight toward them, accelerating. They're not responding, the communications officer said. They're charging weapons. One ship? Vex laughed. They dare challenge 6 Kratorian warships. Destroy them. The Kratorian ships opened fire with plasma cannons, bright blue bolts that could melt through standard hull armor in seconds. But the Indomitable moved. It didn't dodge like normal ships, slowly and carefully. It twisted and rolled with impossible speed, like a fighter craft instead of a military vessel. On the Indomitable's bridge, Minho's hands flew over his controls. Alarm screamed. The hull shook from near misses. Missiles locked, said Weapons Officer Sora. Firing. The missiles that shot from the Indomitable were different from galactic weapons. They moved faster, turned sharper, and had a primitive explosive core that the Kratorian shields weren't designed to stop. The first one hit a Kratorian ship and tore through its shields like they weren't there. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. What was that? Vex screamed. How did they get through our shields? I don't know. Their weapons use a completely different energy signature. The Indomitable rolled again. More missiles fired. Another Kratorian ship died, then another. Vex watched in horror as half his patrol was destroyed in less than 2 minutes. Retreat, he ordered. Fall back to the main fleet. But Jihoon had other plans. Minho, pursue them. Don't let them warn the others yet. Sora, target their engines. The chase was brutal and short. The Indomitable was faster, more agile, and its crew had trained for combat in ways the Kratorians couldn't imagine. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other before they united. They knew every dirty trick, every aggressive tactic, every way to turn a disadvantage into victory. Within 10 minutes, all 6 Kratorian ships were dead or disabled. Vex's ship tried to jump to faster-than-light speed, but a human missile destroyed his engines first. He floated in space, powerless, watching the strange ship approach. What are they? He whispered. Inside the Indomitable, Jihoon stood. Good work, everyone. Nari, get ready. We're going planetside to pick up survivors. Donghyun, I need those shields back at full power in 30 minutes. 20 minutes. Sir, Donghyun said with confidence. Show off, Nari muttered, but she smiled. The ship entered Vela Prime's atmosphere. Fires burned everywhere. Cities were broken ruins. The beautiful world Haeun had grown up on was dying. In her underground shelter, Haeun was sending her message again when the ground shook differently. Not an explosion. Something else. Then her radio crackled with a new voice. This is Commander Jihoon of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We received your distress call. We're here to help. I need coordinates for survivors who can evacuate immediately. We don't have much time. The shelter went silent. Everyone stared at the radio. Earth? Haeun whispered. But Earth is a myth. Terra's just a legend. This is real, the voice said, and it sounded amused. I promise we exist. Now do you want help or not? Haeun grabbed the radio with shaking hands. Yes, please. I'm sending coordinates now. There are thousands of us scattered across the planet. We'll get as many as we can. Stand by. The Indomitable landed near the largest group of survivors. The cargo bay doors opened, and the Velans got their first look at humans. Jihoon walked down the ramp with 10 armed soldiers behind him. The Velans were shocked. These beings looked so much like them. 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head. But there were differences. Their skin came in different shades of brown and beige. Their hair was black or dark brown. Their eyes were sharp and alert, constantly scanning for threats. And they moved with a confidence and energy that seemed wrong. Like predators walking among prey, Haeun stepped forward. She was the only one brave enough. You're really from Earth? Jihoon nodded. We are, and we're going to get you out of here. He looked at the crowd of dirty, scared Velans, mothers holding children, old ones who could barely walk. His jaw tightened. All of you, come on. Move quickly, but don't panic. But the Kratorians, someone said. They'll see your ship. Let them, Sergeant Taeyang said. He was one of the soldiers, built thick with muscle, carrying a weapon that looked brutal and simple. We're not afraid of them. They loaded over 200 Velans into the cargo bay. It was cramped, but no one complained. Haeun stayed near the front watching the humans work. They were efficient and professional, but also kind. Nari, the medical officer, moved through the crowd treating injuries. She smiled at the children and spoke soothingly. You're so much like us, Haeun said to Jihoon, but different. We probably evolved from similar ancestors, Jihoon said. But our world is harsher than yours. It made us harder. Your world is really a death world, like the legends say. If you think volcanoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, droughts, and weather that can kill you in minutes is harsh, then yes. Haeun's eyes went wide. And you survived that? We didn't just survive. We conquered it. The ship took off again. They made 3 more runs, picking up survivors from different locations. Each time they saw more of the destruction. Each time Jihoon's expression got darker. On the 4th run, they found trouble. A Kratorian ground force had trapped a group of Velans in a collapsed building. They were executing prisoners one by one. Minho, take us down fast, Jihoon ordered. Taeyang, get your team ready. With pleasure, sir. The Indomitable dropped from the sky like a falling stone, hovering just above the ground. The cargo bay doors opened, and Taeyang led his squad out before the ship even fully stopped. The Kratorians turned, raising their weapons. They saw 10 humans in armor charging at them. They had 50 soldiers. They thought they had the advantage. They learned their mistake in seconds. Human soldiers fought differently. They were fast, aggressive, and fearless. Taeyang's squad moved like they had trained together for years, which they had. They used the terrain, used covering fire, used tactics the Kratorians had never seen. But what really shocked the Kratorians was the humans themselves. They took hits that should have slowed them down and kept fighting. They made shots that should have been impossible, and they never stopped moving forward, never hesitated, never showed fear. One Kratorian warrior, larger than the others, charged at Taeyang with a blade. Taeyang dodged, grabbed the alien's arm, and used the creature's own momentum to throw him into a wall. The Kratorian hit hard and didn't get up. Surrender or die, Taeyang called out in the Kratorian language, which the humans had learned from intercepted transmissions. Your choice. The remaining Kratorians looked at their unconscious or dead comrades. They looked at the humans who weren't even breathing hard. They dropped their weapons. Smart choice, Taeyang said. He signaled his team to secure them, then turned to the trapped Velans. You're safe now. Let's go. Back on the indomitable, Heian found Jihoon on the bridge. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you come? Why risk your lives for strangers?" Jihoon was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because no one helped us when we needed it. We almost destroyed ourselves because we were alone and afraid. We decided that if we ever got to the stars, we would be different. We would help others, even if it cost us. The Council will be angry with you. Probably. The Kratorians will want revenge. Definitely. You just started a war." Jihoon smiled. "Then we better make sure we win it." An alarm sounded. Minho looked at his screen and his face went pale. "Commander, we have a problem. A big problem. 300 Kratorian warships just entered the system. They're heading straight for us." Jihoon looked at his crew. They looked back at him with trust in their eyes. "All right," he said calmly. "Now it gets interesting. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need backup. And tell them to hurry." The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. All 17 member species shouted at once. Some demanded action against the humans. Others wanted to thank them. No one could agree on anything. High Chancellor Dravik slammed 3 of his 4 hands on his desk, making a sound like thunder. "Order, I will have order." The chamber slowly quieted. On the main screen, footage played from the battle above Vela Prime. Everyone watched the small human ship dance between Kratorian vessels, destroying them with impossible efficiency. "This is an outrage," Ambassador Krell of the Kratorian Empire growled. He was massive, red-armored, with anger in his yellow eyes. "An unknown species attacks Council member ships without provocation. They must be punished." "Without provocation?" Ambassador Velik stood up, his voice shaking with emotion. "You were killing my people. The humans saved us when no one else would." "The humans had no authority to interfere." "Then maybe," a new voice said, "the Council should have acted when it had the chance." Everyone turned. A new ship had just docked with the station. On the screen, a woman walked into the chamber wearing a uniform similar to Jihoon's, but with different markings. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a confident walk. "I am Ambassador Yuna of Earth," she said, "and I'm here to explain our position." Dravik stared at her. "Earth, Terra, the death world of legend. You're real, very real. We've been watching you for 73 years. The chamber exploded with noise again. 73 years. How had an entire species remained hidden for so long? Yuna waited for them to quiet down. Then she spoke, and her words were calm but hard. "We've watched you debate while innocents died. We've watched you follow rules while tyrants conquered. We've watched you choose politics over lives. That's not the kind of galaxy we want to join." "You have no right," Krell said. "We have every right. The right of any species to defend the helpless. The right to do what's morally correct, even when it's not politically convenient." "Your commander Jihoon destroyed Kratorian ships," Dravik said carefully. "That is an act of war. Those ships were bombing civilian targets. Commander Jihoon stopped a massacre. If that's an act of war, then we'll answer for it. But we won't apologize." Dravik looked at the other council members. He could see they were divided. Some were afraid of these new humans. Others were impressed. The Velans were clearly grateful. "Perhaps," Dravik said slowly, "we should learn more about your species before we make judgments. Will you share your history with us?" Yuna nodded. "Of course. But I warn you, it's not pretty." For the next hour, she told them about Earth. She spoke in simple, honest words about humanity's violent past. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. A species that had nearly made their own world uninhabitable. "But we changed," she said. "We had to. We were dying. So we put aside our differences. We united. We cleaned our world. We learned from our mistakes. And when we finally reached space and found we weren't alone, we decided to be better than we had been." "Yet you bring weapons," Krell said. "You bring violence. We bring protection. We know what evil looks like because we've seen it in ourselves. And we know that sometimes to protect the innocent you must be willing to fight." A council member, an insect-like being called Zix, spoke up. "Your biology interests us. We've reviewed your medical data. You can survive in conditions that would kill most species. Your world must be incredibly harsh." "It is," Yuna said. "Gravity that's considered heavy by galactic standards. Weather that changes rapidly. Natural disasters. Predators everywhere, diseases, toxins. Earth tested us constantly. Those who survived became adaptable and tough." Nari, who had come with Yuna, stood up. She was nervous speaking before so many aliens, but she was also proud. We can eat almost any organic matter. We heal quickly. We can function on very little sleep for days. Our bodies are built for endurance, not just strength, and our minds are designed to solve problems under pressure. You sound like weapons, Krell said darkly. We're people, Una replied firmly. We laugh, cry, love, and dream like you. We're not monsters. We're just survivors. While the council debated, Jihoon was on Vela Prime fortifying the planet's defenses. He had 3 days before the main Praetorian fleet arrived. 3 days to turn a helpless world into a fortress. Taeyang and his Marines trained Velan volunteers in basic combat. The Velans had never held weapons before. They were scientists, artists, and farmers. But they learned quickly, motivated by the memory of their dead loved ones. Heun worked as a liaison between humans and Velans. She explained Velan culture to the soldiers and helped calm frightened civilians. She spent most of her time with Taeyang's unit. Why do you fight so differently from us? She asked one day, watching the Marines practice. Taeyang looked up from cleaning his rifle. What do you mean? You move forward always. You never seem afraid. Even when outnumbered, you attack instead of defend, Taeyang smiled. Because fear is what gets you killed. If you're going to fight, fight to win. Hold nothing back. Be aggressive. Make the enemy afraid of you instead. But that's so violent. War is violent, he said gently. We didn't make it that way. But we learned to be good at it because the alternative was extinction. A young Velan named Keto, barely 20 years old, approached nervously. Sergeant Taeyang? Can you teach me that move you showed us yesterday? The one where you disarm someone? Sure, kid. Come on. Hyun watched Taeyang patiently teach Keto, correcting his stance, showing him again and again until he got it right. These humans were warriors, yes, but they were also teachers, protectors, and friends. In orbit, Dongyun worked magic with the Indomitable's damaged systems. The ship had taken hits in the previous battle. Parts needed replacing that they didn't have. I need you to do the impossible again, Jihoon said, visiting engineering. Donghyun grinned, covered in grease and sweat. When have I ever let you down, Commander? I've got the shields at 80%. Weapons are fully operational. Engines are, well, they work. We'll fly when you need us to fly. Good, because we're going to need every advantage we can get. Minho had mapped out the entire Vela system, looking for anything they could use. Asteroid fields, old satellites, gas clouds, anything. The Praetorians will expect a direct fight, he said, showing Jihoon his plan. They outnumber us massively, so we don't give them a direct fight. We turn the entire system into a trap. Jihoon studied the plan. It was clever. It was also incredibly dangerous. This could work, he said slowly. Or it could get us all killed. Those are pretty much our only 2 options anyway, sir. Jihoon laughed despite everything. That was humanity in a nutshell. Faced with impossible odds, they made jokes and planned miracles. Back at the council, Yuna received a priority message from Jihoon. She read it and her face went pale. What is it? Dravik asked. The Praetorian fleet is larger than we thought. 300 ships. High Commander is protecting Vela Prime with 1 vessel and 40 crew members. Then he will die, Krell said with satisfaction. Then we'll send him help, Yuna replied. She turned to the council. Earth is sending 5 more ships. They'll arrive in 2 days. 6 ships against 300? Even Dravik looked concerned. That's suicide. That's humanity, Yuna said. We don't abandon our people. We don't leave allies to die. And we don't quit just because the odds are bad. She looked directly at Krell. Your empire wants to destroy Vela Prime and kill Commander Jihoon. Come and try. But I promise you this. Humanity will not go quietly into extinction. Not ours and not our friends. Krell stood up, his armor gleaming with threat. Your species has just declared war on the Praetorian Empire. You'll regret this. Maybe, Yuna said calmly. But we'll regret running away more. The council session ended with nothing resolved. Some species promised support to Earth. Others sided with the Praetorians. Most wanted to stay neutral and watch. That night, Yuna stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. She thought about Jihoon and his crew preparing to face an impossible battle. She thought about Earth, finally revealing itself after decades of hiding. She thought about the future. A message came through on her personal communicator. It was from Earth Command. 5 ships dispatched. ETA 48 hours. Additional forces being prepared. Earth stands with Commander Jihoon. Make them remember us, Ambassador. Una smiled. They'll remember, she whispered to the stars. The whole galaxy will remember. On Vela Prime, Jehoon gathered his crew and the Velan volunteers. He looked at all of them. Humans who had followed him into danger, and Velans who had found courage they didn't know they had. In 2 days, he said, the largest fleet most of us have ever seen will come to this world. They want to finish what they started. They want to destroy Vela Prime and everyone on it. He paused. We're going to stop them. Some Velans looked scared. Heon stepped forward, her voice clear. How? There are so many of them. Because we're not just defending a planet, Jehoon said. We're defending the idea that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. We're defending the principle that doing the right thing matters more than following rules. And we're showing this galaxy that humanity has arrived. And we will not stand by while innocents suffer. Taeyang raised his rifle. For Earth and Vela! The Kratorian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vela system. 300 warships, each larger and more powerful than the Indomitable. Overlord Krath stood on his command ship's bridge looking at the tactical display with satisfaction. One human vessel, he said. They didn't even run. How disappointing. Overlord, his sensor officer said. The human ship is in orbit around Vela Prime, but we're detecting strange readings throughout the system. Old satellites, mining charges, debris fields that weren't there before. Krath waved a hand dismissively. Debris means nothing. Move the fleet forward. Destroy that human ship and finish the Velans. The fleet advanced. They moved in standard formation, confident in their numbers. Then the trap sprung. The asteroid belt that Minho had carefully mapped suddenly came alive. Old mining charges meant for breaking up rocks exploded. Not near the Kratorian ships, but on the asteroids themselves. Huge chunks of rock shot out in all directions, moving fast and unpredictably. The Kratorian formation scattered, trying to avoid the debris. That's when the second part of the trap activated. Satellites that looked dead suddenly powered up, firing primitive but effective missiles. They weren't meant to destroy ships, just confuse sensors and force the fleet to split up. What is this? Krath roared. They're using mining equipment as weapons? On the Indomitable's bridge, Jehoon watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. Humans learned to improvise long before we reached space. Minho, how's it looking? Fleet is scattered across 3 sectors. They're trying to reform, but it'll take 20 minutes. Good. That's when our reinforcements arrive. As if summoned, 5 more ships dropped into the system. They weren't as large as Kratorian vessels, but they were fast and heavily armed. Each carried the same Earth insignia as the Indomitable. Captain Bora commanded the lead ship, the Defiant. Her voice came over the communication channel. Commander Jehoon, sorry we're late. Traffic was terrible, Jehoon smiled. Better late than never, Captain. Ready to make some history? Let's show them what Earth can do. The 6 human ships moved with coordination that seemed impossible. They communicated constantly, shifted formations instantly, and supported each other perfectly. They had trained together for years, preparing for a first contact that might turn hostile. They just hadn't expected it to be this hostile. The Kratorian fleet outnumbered them 50-1. But the humans didn't fight like any enemy the Kratorians had ever faced. They used the debris field hiding in asteroid shadows. They made sudden, aggressive attacks, then vanished before the enemy could respond. They targeted weak points with precision shots instead of wasting energy on heavy armor. Captain Bora's ship dove through a gap between 2 Kratorian cruisers, firing at both as she passed. Her weapons tore through their engine sections. The cruisers lost power and drifted. 2 more down, she reported. This is almost too easy. Don't get cocky, Jehoon warned. There are still 298 more. The battle became a deadly dance. Human ships zipped through space like fighters, while Kratorian vessels tried to corner them with overwhelming firepower. But every time the Kratorians thought they had a human ship trapped, it would do something unexpected. Minho pulled a maneuver that made half his crew throw up. He accelerated the Indomitable straight at a Kratorian dreadnought, then spun the ship at the last second, scraping along the larger vessel's hull while firing point-blank into its weapons ports. That was insane, Nari said, wiping her mouth. That was flying, Minho replied with a grin. On Vela Prime's surface, the Kratorians sent down dropships full of soldiers. They planned to take the planet while the space battle raged above. They expected terrified civilians and maybe a few human soldiers. They found an ambush. Taeyang had positioned his marines and the Velen volunteers throughout the city. They used the ruins, the knowledge of local terrain, and tactics that the Kratorians had never seen. A Kratorian squad marched down a street, confident in their armor and numbers. Then Keto, the young Velen, triggered a simple trap. A building collapsed, blocking their path. As they turned to find another route, Taeyang's team opened fire from 3 directions. The battle was brutal. Kratorians were larger and stronger than humans, but humans were faster and fought with a ferocity that shocked their enemies. Taeyang himself took on a Kratorian champion in hand-to-hand combat. The alien was twice his size, covered in armor, armed with a blade. Taeyang had a combat knife and his wits. They circled each other. "You're small," the Kratorian said. "Weak. We'll see," Taeyang replied. The Kratorian charged. Taeyang didn't dodge. He stepped into the attack, too close for the larger alien's weapon to be effective. He drove his knife into a gap in the armor, then used the Kratorian's own momentum to throw him to the ground. The alien didn't get back up. "Never underestimate humans," Taeyang said to the other Kratorians who had stopped to watch. "We've been fighting wars since before we could write. This is what we're good at." The ground battle turned into a nightmare for the invaders. Every street was a trap. Every building might hide enemies. And the humans never stopped, never surrendered, never showed mercy to those who had shown none to the Velens. In space, the battle was taking its toll. The human ships had destroyed or disabled 30 Kratorian vessels, but they were also taking damage. The Defiant had lost shields. The Indomitable's hull had breaches on 3 decks. Donghyun worked frantically in engineering, holding systems together through sheer will and genius. "Commander, shields are down to 40%. I'm rerouting power from life support, but we can't take many more hits." "Keep us flying," Jihoon said. "That's all I need." Haeun, who had stayed on the ship to help coordinate with ground forces, watched the battle with wide eyes. She had never imagined violence like this. But she also saw the sacrifice, humans putting themselves in danger to protect Velens they had just met. "Why?" she asked Nari, who was treating injured crew members. "Why die for us?" Nari looked up from bandaging a burn wound. "Because it's right. Because you would do the same for us if positions were reversed. Because we're all people and people should help each other. The Council doesn't think that way. Then the Council is wrong." Krath was furious. How were 6 ships holding off his entire fleet? He had lost 30 vessels and countless ground troops. The humans were making him look like a fool. "All ships," he commanded. "Forget the human vessels. Target the planet. Burn it from orbit. But Overlord, our troops are still on the surface. I don't care. Class the entire world. Leave nothing alive." The Kratorian fleet stopped chasing human ships and turned their weapons toward Vela Prime. Hundreds of plasma cannons charged, ready to turn the planet into ash. Jihoon saw it happening. "They're going to destroy the planet," he said quietly. "We can't stop all those shots." "Then we don't try," said Captain Bora over the communications. "We stop the one ship that matters." She was right. If Krath died, the Kratorian fleet might break. It was their way. "Kill the leader, win the war, all ships," Jihoon ordered. "We're going straight for the command vessel. Full speed. Everything we've got." "That's suicide," Minho said. "Then we die doing something that matters." The 6 human ships turned as one and accelerated toward Krath's massive dreadnought. They ignored the other Kratorian vessels. Ignored the weapons fire tearing into them. They had one target, one goal. The Defiant took a direct hit. Its main reactor went critical. Captain Bora's last words were calm. "Continue the mission. Make it count." Her ship exploded, taking 2 Kratorian cruisers with it, 5 human ships now. The Relentless lost engines and fell behind, firing until its weapons ran dry, then ramming into a Kratorian destroyer in a final act of defiance. 4 ships. The Valiant's bridge took a hit. The crew and engineering took control and kept flying, kept fighting even as they bled and died. 3 ships. The Phoenix broke apart, but not before launching every missile it had left at Krath's shields. 2 ships. The Thunderchild sacrificed itself, ramming into the Dreadnought's main cannon just as it was about to fire on Vela Prime. Only the Indomitable remained. It was barely flying. Half the crew was dead or wounded. The hull was on fire in 6 places, but it still moved forward. "Donghyun," Jihoon said calmly. "Can we ram them?" "Yes, sir, once." Jihoon looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Some were crying. All were ready. "It's been an honor," he said simply. "The honor was ours, sir," Minho replied. The Indomitable accelerated one last time, a dying ship with a crew that refused to quit. Krath saw them coming and laughed. One ship? They think one ship can stop me? Then the Indomitable hit his dreadnought like a missile. The explosion was massive, tearing through shields and armor. Krath's ship didn't explode, but it broke, systems failing, fires spreading. In the wreckage, Ji-hoon opened his eyes. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, trapped under debris. Around him, his crew was scattered. Some were moving, others weren't. Report, he coughed. We're alive, Nari said weakly from somewhere nearby. Some of us, barely. Did we stop them? On sensors, they could see Krath's ship was dead in space. The other Kratorian vessels had stopped firing. Without their leader, without clear orders, they were hesitating. We stopped them, Minho confirmed, his voice filled with pain and pride. We actually stopped them. The rescue ships arrived 12 hours later. They found the wreckage of 5 human vessels, the broken remains of 37 Kratorian ships, and one very damaged human commander trapped in the ruins of his bridge. Ji-hoon woke up in a medical bay. His body hurt everywhere. Bandages covered most of him, but he was alive. Welcome back, Commander, Nari said. She looked exhausted with bandages on her own arms, but she was smiling. You scared us. The crew? Her smile faded. We lost 18 people. Another 15 are badly injured. But 27 of us survived. Against all odds. Ji-hoon closed his eyes, thinking of the faces he would never see again. Captain Bora, who made jokes even in danger. Lieutenant Kwan, who always had candy in his pockets for stressed crew members. Engineer Kim, who could fix anything. What about Vela Prime? Safe. The Kratorian fleet retreated when their command ship was destroyed. Overlord Krath is dead. Taeyang and his ground team held the cities. Civilian casualties were high, but most survived. She paused. Because of you. Because of all of us, Ji-hoon said quietly. The news of the Battle of Vela Prime spread across the galaxy like fire. A single human ship, supported by 5 others, had held off 300 Kratorian warships and won. The impossible had happened. Some species celebrated. Others were frightened. All wanted to know more about these humans. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. This time, when Ambassador Yuna entered the chamber, everyone went quiet. They looked at her with new respect and some with fear. High Chancellor Dravik spoke first. Ambassador Yuna, what your people did at Vela Prime was remarkable and costly. We offer our condolences for your losses. Thank you, Yuna said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were sad. She had known many of those who died. They gave their lives protecting innocents. That's what humans do. The Council has discussed your species at length, Dravik continued. We would like to invite Earth to join as an official member with full rights and responsibilities. We accept, Yuna said. But with conditions. Krell, representing what remained of the Kratorian Empire's diplomatic corps, stood up angrily. Conditions? You attack our ships, kill our overlord, and now you make demands? Your overlord was committing genocide, Yuna said coldly. He got what he deserved. And yes, we have conditions. The Council needs reform. You can't let bureaucracy prevent you from stopping atrocities. You need a rapid response force for emergencies. You need to put lives before politics. And I suppose humans would lead this force? Krell said mockingly, if necessary. We've proven we're willing to fight for others, not just ourselves. The Council debated for hours. Some species supported Yuna's proposals. Others thought humans were too aggressive, too violent, too willing to fight. But no one could deny what humans had accomplished. Finally, a vote was called. 15 species voted to accept Earth's membership with conditions. Only 2 voted against, including the Kratorians. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Dravik said. May your species bring the change we need. 3 weeks later, Heun stood on a transport ship heading to Earth. Taeyang sat beside her, now wearing dress uniform instead of combat armor. He had been asked to stay as part of Earth's new embassy security team. Are you scared? Taeyang asked. Terrified, Heun admitted. Your world is a death world. Everything I've heard about it sounds impossible to survive. You'll be fine. Earth has gotten safer. We've learned to protect ourselves from our own planet. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and Earth appeared on the view screen. Heun gasped. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling across the surface. It's so colorful, she whispered. Wait until you see the weather, Taeyang said with a smile. They landed at a facility in a place called Korea. As Hyun walked down the ramp, she felt the gravity pulling at her. It was noticeably heavier than Vela's gravity. She also felt the heat, the wind, the humidity. Everything was more intense than home. Humans walked everywhere, busy with their lives. They barely noticed another alien among them. Earth had become used to alien visitors quickly. "This way," Taeyang said, leading her to a building. "There's someone who wants to meet you." Inside, Ji-hoon waited. He still moved carefully, still healing from his injuries. But he smiled when he saw her. "Hyun," he said. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Ji-hoon." She bowed in the human custom she had learned. "Thank you for having me. Just Ji-hoon is fine. I'm not your commander anymore. I'm just another person trying to figure out this new galaxy we're all part of." They walked through a garden. Hyun marveled at the variety of plants, the insects flying around, the birds singing. Earth was so alive, so vibrant, so dangerous and beautiful at the same time. "Your people have been through so much," she said. "War, near extinction, isolation. How do you stay so hopeful?" Ji-hoon thought about it. "Because we have to be. Hope is what kept us going through the darkest times. Hope that tomorrow could be better than today. Hope that we could be better than we were. Hope is very human. Is that why you helped us? Hope? We helped you because it was right, but also because we hope that if we ever need help again, someone will be there for us too. We're building the galaxy we want to live in." Hyun looked at the blue sky above. She thought about her destroyed cities, her dead people, and her world that was slowly rebuilding. "Will my planet ever be like this? Full of life and color again?" "It will," Ji-hoon said confidently. "And humans will help. We're sending construction teams, medical supplies, and food. We'll help you rebuild, and we'll teach you how to defend yourselves. You'll never be helpless again." "Why? You've done so much already." "Because that's what friends do." Across the galaxy, in a hidden base far from Council space, Overlord Krath was not dead. Badly wounded, barely alive, but not dead. His subordinates had rescued him from his destroyed ship. He watched footage of Earth, of human cities, of their technology and their people. He watched it over and over, rage building in his chest. "Send messages to the other empires," he ordered, his voice weak but filled with hate. "The Vortan hegemony, the Zalos collective, anyone who fears the Council. Tell them about the humans. Tell them that these Deathworlders cannot be allowed to spread their influence. Tell them we must unite to destroy them before they become unstoppable." His communication officer hesitated. "But Overlord, the humans saved an entire species. They fought against impossible odds. Many in the galaxy see them as heroes." "That's why they're dangerous," Krath said. "Heroes inspire others. Heroes change things. Heroes must be eliminated before they change too much." On Earth, Ji-hoon received a message from Earth Command. New ships were being built, larger, more advanced, prepared for the conflicts to come. Because everyone knew this peace wouldn't last. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and some species would fear that power. "What are you thinking?" Hyun asked, seeing his expression change. "I'm thinking the real work is just beginning. We've made first contact. We've shown what we can do. Now we have to prove we can be trusted with that power." "Do you think there will be more wars?" "Probably. There are species out there who don't want change, who like things the way they are. They'll see us as a threat. Are you afraid?" Ji-hoon looked at the sunset, painting the sky in colors of orange and pink. "Yes, but fear is okay. Fear keeps you careful. It's what you do with the fear that matters." Taeyang joined them, carrying 3 drinks. "Thought you might be thirsty." "This is soju, traditional Korean drink. Be careful, Hyun. It's stronger than you think." They sat in the garden as the sun set. 3 people from different worlds, brought together by war but hoping for peace. They talked about small things. Food, music, stories from their childhoods, normal things that normal people discussed. Because that's what they were, despite everything. Normal people trying to do good in a complicated galaxy. A month later, Earth held a ceremony for those who died at Vela Prime. Thousands gathered. Humans, Velans, and representatives from other species. They read the names of the fallen, both human and Velan. They planted trees in their memory, each tree from Earth, symbolizing life continuing even after loss. Yuna gave a speech that was transmitted across the galaxy. "We didn't come to the stars to conquer. We didn't reveal ourselves to dominate. We came because we believe in a simple truth, that all intelligent life has value and that value is worth protecting. The people who died at Vela Prime believed that truth so deeply they gave everything for it. We honor them by continuing their work." By being the galaxy we want to see. By standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. In the audience, Ji-hoon stood with his surviving crew. They wore their uniforms proudly, medals on their chests, scars on their bodies. They had become the first human heroes in galactic history. But to them, they were just people who did their jobs. Protected the weak, fought for what was right. Very human things to do. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Then slowly voices joined in song. Human voices first, singing an old Earth anthem about peace and unity. Then Velen voices added their own harmonies. Then others joined, species from across the galaxy, creating a sound that had never been heard before. It was the sound of hope. The sound of different peoples coming together. The sound of a new beginning,